Ritter. First girl to place in the boys section tournament. First to do this, first to do that. She's a lot of firsts, so she's first. And by the way, if you didn't catch her, she's a U20 silver medalist in the world. And it's been a pleasure watching her grow up in my own backyard. They're lovely parents over there. They're great people. So, the National Trish Saunders Award and Steve Silver, Most Outstanding Female Wrestler, Sophia Macaluso. Our next award honoree is the Dave Schultz nominee and Robert Fellmeyer, Outstanding Wrestler, D1's Cole Mulhauser. Cole? Cole's representative.
I'm good.
He's a little bit older. Going for his 12th year. By the way, if you don't know, Cole was the G1 Outstanding Wrestler in the New York State Wrestling Championship. Congratulations. Our next high school honoree is for the Richard Pete Hosrath Outstanding Wrestler D2, Carter Bear. Carter? Like Cole, Carter was the D2 Outstanding Wrestler in New York State. It was a pleasure watching those two young lads go, and they made it difficult on the board to figure out what to do going this day forward. Congratulations, Carter, and best of luck in college. At this point, we'll be taking a break, enjoy your lunch, and we'll be back with the honorees.
I'll tell him you're at the bottom. I like that suit, man. Nice, man. Three-piece. I like that. Nice. I had my time. I know you had. I had my time. But it's going to be before service. Just before service. Just before service. It's not for everybody.
Just a reminder, the first is just as important as the last recipient when we're through the honorees. So your gratitude and proper comportment by remaining in attendance until the last presentation has been made. And thank you so far. Let's keep going with the honorees. Eric?
So our first honoree in the 2022 class of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, Upstate New York Chapter, is Robert Weeks. He will be presented by Frank Popolizio. Frank, would you please come to the podium? I am sure. Hello. My name is Frank Popolizio. I'm honored today to present and recognize my long-time friend and colleague, Coach Rob Weeks, into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. I've been extremely fortunate throughout my tenure to work with some of the absolute legends of our sport. And Rob Weeks can hold his own with any of those guys. Today we get to celebrate the successes of Rob Weeks. They can be quantified by recognizing his victories and titles. As an athlete, a Section 2 champ, junior college All-American, starter over at Springfield College, and as a coach, he's had 45 sectional champs, 27 New York State place finishers, 11 New York State champions. He was a 10-time Section 2 Class A team champion, 4-time New York State tournament team champion, and we've been nationally ranked in 2011 and 2012. All of these accolades and accomplishments are truly outstanding and noteworthy, but I would like to focus on what made it a reality. The truth is, Rob Weeks exemplifies exceptional leadership, humility, and inspiration. Throughout Rob's tenure, he's been an amazing architect by building an exceptional infrastructure of support, from the support of his wife Shelley and family, to the staff and administration at Shenandoah, all the way to his coaching staff. I've always been impressed in how Rob would assemble a staff that was diverse, talented, in many ways polar opposite to his background. Team was always what mattered to Rob the most. I myself came from one of the fiercest competitors, Niskayuna. Coach Lombard and Benna were adversaries, and from that, long-standing rivalry was born. Rob broke the barriers down and extended an olive branch to build something that was special. He did this with many. Over the years, there were remarkable people working in tandem with Rob. Rich Keys over at Hadley, Stan Harper, Dan DeAmboise, Dave Waring, Jerry Arsberger, John Mays, John Bowen, Joe Comito, Ryan Fenton, Steve Hart, and our current staff, Dan Palmerino, Dan Merrick, and Chris Capasuti. Through it all, no one ever squabbled about who had which title or what role, or who would get credit or recognition for any of these successes. Rob's humility and extensive leadership was always a part of the process. As author John Maxwell once said, a good leader is a person who takes a little more than his share of the blame, and a little less than his share of the credit. After a key victory, Rob is always heard commending the unsung heroes of the team, shifting credit to his staff. Rarely, if ever, would he take credit himself. And he did this type of thing constantly. Ultimately, he was able to blend everyone and everything seamlessly. He was masterful in working with all these unique personalities and mitigating any resemblance of ego. Very arduous task. Rob's mindset has led to a long list of success stories. That's undeniable. However, all pale in comparison to his ability to bond with the athlete. It's always inspiring to see former alumni walk through the halls of Shenandoah decades later to pay homage to him and the program, always unsolicited. Many of these warriors weren't superstar wrestlers, but always a part of the team's success, whether it was modified, JV, or varsity. And today, they are integral members of society. Teachers, social workers, scientists, Apache helicopter pilots, coaches, law enforcement, business leaders, doctors, mechanics, and even Navy SEALs, just to name a few. It's a real testament to someone that was connected to their development and their character. As Nelson Mandela said, a leader is like a shepherd. He stays behind the flock, letting the most nimble go out ahead, whereupon the others follow, not realizing that all along they're being directed from behind. I've always said that greatness and longevity are intricately interconnected. Rob has proven both brilliantly through leadership and grit, all while maintaining humility. And because of that, we're here today. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us now welcome Rob Weeks for the induction into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Good evening. I'd like to begin by thanking the Hall of Fame Committee for selecting me to be part of the New York State National Wrestling Hall of Fame. I would personally like to thank Frank Popolizio for nominating me for this recognition. I would also like to thank Carl Koenig, and I think we can all give him a nice hand of round of applause for all the work he does for all the help he I am honored to be joining this year's class of inductees, and I am humbled to be joining all the previous Hall of Fame inductees from years past. And I would like to thank everyone here who is here on my behalf today. If you are here, you have personally had a direct impact on my life. From my immediate family, and extended family, all the way from Minnesota, the E-Team, to all of the coaches that I've had the pleasure to coach with or against, to all of my former wrestlers, to everyone else in attendance tonight, thank you for being here. I have been fortunate to have been involved in the sport of wrestling for a long time. Presently, I am the wrestling coach at Shenandoah High School and have been since 1997. But my involvement in the sport of wrestling started a long time ago. I grew up in a family of 8, 7 boys and 1 girl on a farm in Queensbury. Thankfully for me, as the 7th boy, my parents always wanted a daughter. So their 8th child was a girl. So Valerie, thank you for waiting so long to come out. 2 of my older brothers, Timmy and Randy, were involved in wrestling when they were younger as well. So I had some people to look up to when I thought about sports that I wanted to be part of. Additionally, my brother Randy was very influential to me growing up. He always encouraged me to be involved in sports, whether it was playing catch during baseball when I thought I was going to be a professional baseball player, or working out in his weight room any chance I got. His support back then was a big part of my success.
I started wrestling when I was in 6th grade at Queensbury Middle School. One of my first coaches, Chuck Wilkinson, would also become my guidance counselor, and then my modified coach in 7th grade. Coach Wilkinson would be a driving force in my path at a time when I needed the guidance he provided. To say that the sport of wrestling has been a driving force in my life would be an understatement. The sport of wrestling has shaped and guided the path that led me to where I am today. I was fortunate to be part of a successful wrestling program in high school. My high school coach was a master at making every kid on the team feel relevant, something I strived for. I cherish the opportunity to be part of something bigger than myself. I use these experiences in my coaching philosophy today. I was able to be a four-year varsity wrestler at Queensbury High School during a time where being a wrestler at Queensbury High School was pretty cool. Jack LeBombard and Bill Smith were my coaches back then. Their individual coaching styles were a perfect fit for me. Coach LeBombard, the leader, was all business, and he was a successful businessman, as can be seen by his accolades. While Coach Smith was the perfect assistant coach, calm, cool, and collected, always keeping things in perspective. Their relationship provided the setting I strived in. The family we built in the wrestling room was directly connected to their leadership. Coach LeBombard would get us fired up for an upcoming match, while Coach Smith would keep us grounded and focused. I know Coach Smith isn't here with us tonight because he's home recovering from a medical procedure, but I owe him and Coach LeBombard a huge debt of gratitude for creating such a great environment at Queensbury High School. After high school, I had the fortune to be coached by some great people, many of them friends of mine to this day. Fred Palmer at Adirondack Community College, Tom Stewart at Fulton Montgomery Community College, my coaches at Springfield College, the late Doug Parker and Daryl Arroyo. All of these men were very influential to me. All of the knowledge I gained through their leadership led me back to New York State, first at Hadley Lutheran High School, and then now presently at Shenandoah. During my time here at Shenandoah, I try to emphasize a basic philosophy that doesn't necessarily focus on wins and losses. Instead of pressuring my team to win, I pressured everyone, including myself, to be a good role model. I've emphasized the need for everyone to give their best effort while being respectful of their teammates, their opponents, their coaches, and the officials. Building this culture of respect and hard work has been the formula of success for our program. George Angley, Shenandoah's first wrestling coach and friend of mine, once said that if you have 50 kids on your wrestling team, there will be 50 different reasons why they're there, and we cannot control the why. Maybe it's for the love of the sport, maybe it's because they have nothing to go home to. Regardless of the why someone chooses wrestling, I know it is our responsibility to provide each and every one of them a good experience. And that's something I've always done and will always continue to do. As a parent, I've had the fortune to watch my children participate in many different sports, from wrestling to gymnastics, soccer, lacrosse, track, baseball, and cross country. Something I always try to see is how their experience has been based on the culture their coaches created. Thankfully, my children have had some good coaches over the years who are coaching for the kids, and I see the benefit they get from that leadership. But you can always see through your children when a coach's focus is not centered around the athletes. I see my own children go through programs where too much focus is on the coach, or worse yet, the coach is not committed to the program at all. I've always maintained that coaching is a privilege with a tremendous responsibility. First and foremost, we're responsible for providing an opportunity for any kid to be a part of something that they can be proud of. I have had hundreds of kids come through my program over the years, and something I'm most proud of is knowing that I've done everything in my power to make each of them feel relevant within the program. As a coach here at Shenandoah, I have to say I have been blessed with the opportunity to work with some great student athletes and families. I have achieved some accolades over the years that I am very proud of. Many of those accolades were the driving force in my induction to the Hall of Fame, but I'm a humble person and find it difficult to talk about such achievements, especially because there have been so many people who have helped me earn them along the way. What I am most proud of, and don't have trouble talking about, is the pleasure knowing I've been able to develop and lead a program that affords elite athletes like Nick Kelly, Yvonne Leviva, Phil Magoo, Seth Hazelton, and Mike Prendergast, who are here today, along with countless other athletes, the opportunity to achieve greatness while at the same time providing the not-so-great athletes an opportunity to be part of something bigger than themselves. I'm also very proud of one of my former wrestlers, again like Mike Prendergast, who goes on to become a coach himself. Along with the great kids I've had the fortune to have within my program, I've had great parents connected as well. I've always had the ability to rely on good parents here at Shenandoah, like Joe Gardino, Anthony Donello, and Seth Hazelton, who are here tonight. So I would like to thank them and all of the other parents over the years for being part of our group. One of the great parts of the sport of wrestling is the opportunity to establish relationships with opposing coaches. As we all know, wrestling is a very personal sport, and that carries over to coaching as well. I've become lifelong friends with a lot of coaches over the years, including Dickie Whitaker and Ron Ashcraft, both here tonight. Even though we are enemies during a match or tournament, we all share a familiar bond that connects us, our commitment to our own program. A big part of my longevity has been the fortune of surrounding myself with great coaches. Since starting at Shenandoah, I've had the pleasure of coaching 17 different people over the years. From my early days here at Shenandoah, where I was able to work with every previous varsity coach, George Angling, Dan Boyce, Dan Harper, and John Mays, to the guys I recruited to help develop my vision of the program, like Steve Hart, Jimmy Ward, and Ryan Fenton, who are also here tonight. And to, of course, all the other coaches over the years, thank you for being part of this. Which brings me to my present coaching staff, Dan Pomerino, Chris Capizzuti, Frank Papalizio, who are here tonight, along with Nate Chin and Dan Merritt. Frank Papalizio and I had a vision and a goal 20-something years ago, and we started a working relationship that transformed the sport of wrestling as you see it today. With the support of Chris and Dan, we've established something very special at Shenandoah. Each one of these guys has played an integral part of the program we've developed over the years, and I'm very appreciative of their involvement and support over the years, and I wanted to thank them for their involvement. Thanks, guys. I feel one of the greatest achievements in developing an environment that people want to be part of. I know that my coaches have the same vision I have in the program, and that is the primary reason why we have been successful. Before I close, I want to thank and recognize one of the most important factors in my longevity as a coach, and that is my wife, Shelley. Next month, we will celebrate our 26th wedding anniversary. It doesn't seem logical, but it's true, 26 Shelley. Without her support, none of this would be possible. Together, we have 4 beautiful children, Jeffrey, Katie, Lucas, and Molly. So in closing, I want to again thank all of those involved in my career, from coaches to administrators, to all of the families I've had the fortune to meet, to all of the great wrestlers I've coached over the years. I hope I can continue to provide this learning environment for many years to come. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Our next inductee, Chris Bourne, presented by Michael and Brian Bourne. Michael, Brian, please come forward.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike, and this is Brian, and it is our honor on so many levels to introduce and be part of this on behalf of our father, Chris Bourne. Before I get started, besides introducing Brian, I want to tell you he's going to be a little quiet during most of this. He's still pouting from realizing he spent $150 more on his touch roll than I did. So, as I was kind of framing my mind on how to introduce my father, I started going through all the statistics and everything, and then I realized that, one, most people would read those coming in here today, and two, that's not the reason he's here. He started off in East Rochester and Portland as a student athlete, and you could see it when we walked in here today. The man, the myth, the legend that he always refers to as Coach Quinn was right here with him too. Then I looked around and realized his coaching experience at Wayne Central and Canandaigua, and it was like an entourage. And then seeing like Coach Freshlaw, who's a past Hall of Fame inductee, and then seeing Coach Montour and Coach Harbaugh there, and it was like a flashback to all the memories of why, again, what led us up to this day here today. Then I even went a little farther and started thinking about him as a Section 5 coordinator, and the man's relentless. He's relentless. He even convinces my mom to fly back from Florida every year now to go to the Section 5 championships and state tournament, and Mom, you're a saint. But then I started also thinking about, I remember that time that he brought the Section 5 state tournament to Rochester, and it's the same year my brother won a state championship. And I was thinking again, like, the whole circle of family and what wrestling is to our family, and the people that are here supporting them, and it just, it hit me. And then I started thinking, I'm up here, I'm going to give them all these accolades and everything, but I also get to tell them that it's official, that you are the third best wrestler in the Bourne household. I'm not going to miss my opportunity to say that out loud to a bunch of people. And then my brother, as quiet as he's being right now, he brought up a really good point here today, and he goes, you realize that Dad has been like a lifelong Hall of Famer. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, he's in the East Rochester Hall of Fame as a student athlete. He's in the Wayne Central Hall of Fame as a coach. He's in the Brockport Hall of Fame as an athletic director and an administrator. He's in the Section 5 Hall of Fame for everything we already mentioned. And now here we are at New York State Hall of Fame. I'm like, man, how many more Hall of Fames does this guy need? But he has been, his life is as a Hall of Famer, and it's by his natural leadership that he's here. The last part of this is really, there's many times I'm standing while I'm on Brockport's campus, or I'm around Rochester or whatever, and people will say, hey, are you related to Chris Bourne? I get that. I'm related to Brian Bourne in a second. But I'll get, are you related to Chris Bourne? And usually when people ask, are you related to somebody, it's because they're kind of focused on, wow, this person made such a major impact on my life. But a lot of people will ask me too, it's because your dad had the difficult conversations with me when nobody else would. And it doesn't mean that it always led to a positive impact, it's because of his leadership. And those are the ones that stick out to me the most, more than anything else. I mean, anybody could ask me any day, like, is your father Chris Bourne? Sometimes I'm a little nervous, but, is your father Chris Bourne? And the ones say, even though it didn't work out for me, or for this and that, I remember your dad every time I hear, or I see him in public, or I see the last name Bourne. So, on behalf of our family and his past student athletes, his colleagues, his coaches, I can't think of a better person I wouldn't rather have in my corner in the aspect of life than my father, Chris Bourne. So, let us now welcome Chris Bourne for induction to the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, now and forever, Chris Bourne.
Well, thank you, Mike and Brian. All my years of being involved in wrestling, by far the most thrilling and exciting and nerve-wracking was watching our two boys compete. And he told you a little bit, but between them, I'll brag a little bit for a minute here. They placed in the New York State tournament 6 times. They were part of 4 teams that were ranked #1 in the state. And then the culminating event was in 2008 when we brought the state tournament to Rochester, and Brian won it, and he also was the first Section 5 wrestler to win a freestyle cadet championship in Fargo. So again, thank you very much. I'll tell you what a Hall of Fame coach I am. I'll tell you one quick story. People from Wayne have heard it, but my first coaching job was at Wayne Central, varsity coach. In my first match ever, my 98-pounder was in his first match. I recruited him out of the hallway. So my first match, his first match, and he's the first match of the night. So he goes out and he's wrestling really, really good, but in the second period he makes that rookie mistake. He reaches back and he gets pinned. So he comes off the mat and I'm like, all right, what do I say? What would Coach Quinn do? What do I say? So I went up to him and I said, hey, listen, you did a great job. You're going to learn from this. You're going to get better. And he looked at me and he said, yeah, but Coach, they screwed me out of the third period. And I said, well, Darren, when you get pinned, the match is over with. And he looked at me and he said, well, if I would have known that, I would have tried a little harder to get off my back. And right then and there, I knew I had a long ways to go. But, thank you, Carl, and the committee for this honor. I have the privilege of presenting for both Coach Quinn and Scott Breschlaw, my good friend, and then being on the other side of this is a really humbling honor. This will become my 56th year of being involved, 56th consecutive year of being involved in wrestling in New York State. And when I look at it, I'm proud. I'm proud of the successes that we've had and the accomplishments and the contributions. But in all honesty, it pales in comparison to what I've received being involved in the sport. Wrestling has helped shape who I am, how I function, how I go through making decisions, how I live my life. It's helped me navigate the ups and downs, and I'm sure everybody in this room has had their ups and downs, and our family is no different. And we're still navigating them, but wrestling taught me to face them, head on, to be accountable, to keep grinding, keep going forward, and I'm very appreciative of the lessons learned in doing that. There's a quote that says, tough times don't last, tough people do. And wrestling makes people tough. It makes boys and girls tough. It makes men and women tough going through that. And, we're in a part right now, our country, it needs tougher people. It needs more wrestlers running it, I think. And the other part... The other part that wrestling has given me is a lifetime of friendships. From wrestling at East Rochester and Cortland and coaching at Wayne, Canandaigua, and being part of Section 5 in New York State has brought me so many lifetime friends. And I'm so appreciative of the people that came out today, especially with Buffalo Bills playing today. This was a big sacrifice for a lot of them. But truly a great honor, and thank you so much. In closing, I want to recognize three different people. First is my high school coach, Coach Quinn, who's seated over there. And, Coach, Hall of Fame Coach Quinn, he was who I wanted to be when I was going through East Rochester. He was it. He was my wrestling coach. He was a phys ed teacher. He was an athletic director. He went to Cortland, so I went to Cortland. And I just hope, Coach, that I've had the impact on others in my life that you had on me and continue to have on me. And I will tell you that I do truly appreciate taking your money on the golf course all these years, too, as well. The second person I'd like to thank is Marty Sherman. Marty, not only he nominated me for this position, but even more than that, Marty is the force behind what's happening in New York State. For years, wrestling didn't change much. The state tournament was held in Syracuse. It was held on 4 mats, and there was 11 wrestlers in a weight class. Fast forward to now, we have 2 state individual championships. We have a dual meet state championship. We wrestle on 10 mats in Albany, and we have 43 wrestlers in the 2 divisions per weight class. So, Marty, thank you for your continued leadership. Where are you, Marty? Marty Sherman, just a great job. And the last group is my family. You met Mike and Brian. Our daughters, Kristen and Nikki, are seated at that table. Between them and their spouses, they have given us and blessed us with 10 beautiful grandchildren. The oldest one was a wrestler. Also, 3 out of our 4 parents are not only they're with us here today. My mother and father-in-law are here, and my mom, 97 years old, she can still outwork me and out-hustle me and outsmart me at times. And lastly, like Rod said, the most important person, my wife, Debbie. I'm a blessed man in that not too many men involved in this sport can honestly say that their wife loves wrestling as much or more than they do, but that was my wife, Debbie, and she'll continue to fly home with me, right, honey, from Florida when we do this end of the year? But Thank you, and we're on 42 years of marriage, and she's been in my corner since day one. So, again, thank you everyone for sharing this moment with me, and congratulations to all the other inductees. Thank you.
Our next 2022 National Hall of Fame Upstate New York Chapter inductee is Roy Garino. He will be presented by Anthony Pollicare. Anthony, please come forward.
President Comey and Bourne, Hall of Fame members, inductees, and guests. Congratulations to the newest inductees and their families. I am here to introduce Roy Edward Garino into the Upstate Chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Roy began his wrestling experience as a highly accomplished wrestler under the tutelage of national record holder, Hall of Fame member Norm Foster at Amherst High School in Western New York. His ability led him to continue competing on the college level, and when another Hall of Fame coach would see him at a large off-season event, Coach Ed Michael saw this gem and quietly recruited him to become one of the country's most powerful junior colleges in Corning, New York. Roy established himself as an elite-level competitor, earning a berth in the national championships. When Coach Michael took the job at the University of Buffalo, he swiftly put Garino on his list of must-haves. Roy took his academic and athletic success to Buffalo, where being assembled was a powerhouse of carefully selected wrestlers that moved into national prominence. Roy immediately won the 5 deep in his wrestle-offs and became part of history. Roy's impact was intense. His team won the largest open tournament in the country at East Stroudsburg, and medalist Grimino established himself as a head turner with a relentless pressure style. As the difficult schedule continued, Grimino impressed with explosive takedowns and unique takedown defense, including a frightening, and may I say kind of unusual, Corner Nelson series. Roy accepted the challenge of wrestling at this level when the Wilkes Open champion came to town, riding an unbeaten streak at the Division I level. With the controlled violence of a Wolverine, he left his opponent exhausted, beaten, and confused as he left the mat. One of many such victories for the 134-pound Buffalo Star. Roy punched his ticket to the NCAA tournament in the largest qualifier in the country, the NCAA East Regional held in Cincinnati. The rugged Garino was part of the nationally ranked UB Bulls. It was named the prestigious Most Improved Wrestler. Now, this was no slight accomplishment considering Buffalo defeated Clarion University in a dual meet when they had 3 NCAA Division I champions and 2 place winners in their lineup. Imagine. Including the nation's outstanding wrestler. The Buffalo lineup was deep and skilled. Roy changed gears and got into coaching after receiving his coveted degree from Buffalo, which was really emphasized by Coach Ed Michael. His teams took on the likeness and relentlessness of this wrestler, coaching multiple, undefeated, streaking juggernauts that he transformed from humble histories was his trademark. His Williamsville East and Lakeshore teams were Western Europe and statewide powers. His individuals were numerous, where his champions were distinguished with Garino brand of highly conditioned technicians with tactical expertise. Roy gathered many coaching awards and was lauded by his peers in the coaching ranks. Roy professionally served his community as a State University police officer and gained the rank of lieutenant. How many of you can spell lieutenant? Roy wrestled in the state police competition, winning medal after medal. Just another thing for Roy, including grappling men 20 years his junior and giving up 3 or 4 weight classes. The guy just wouldn't quit. Roy served the 29,000 students at UB with distinction. As a friend, respected professional, I welcome Roy Grimino acquiring so many accolades and awards. He is a funny, caring guy and friend that has made several lifelong acquaintances and friends through his associations with this great sport of wrestling. I honor and praise Roy for his successes, but Grimino's greatest success that puts him in a special class, adding to the quality of this Hall of Fame, is that of husband, father, and grandfather. Roy married his college sweetheart, a cheerleader prom queen, in storybook fashion. Together, Roy and Sally raised 5 beautiful, talented, successful children with great distinction. Roy taught family value and unity rarely seen in these times. When the Grello clan gathers, they resemble a Norman Rockwell painting. It is with love and respect in presenting Roy E. Garino into the National Hall of Fame, now and forever, Roy Edward Garino.
Hi everyone, I am Roy Garino, aka Joe Garino, Baby Joe, officer, lieutenant, coach, dad, and my favorite, grandpa. Thank you, Tony, for such a great introduction. It took me a moment or two to realize you were actually talking about me. For all those accolades and being such a wicked friend, I sincerely thank you. Before I start my speech today, I want to recognize Kale Comey, the president of the Upstate New York Chapter of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, for the great job he has done organizing this amazing celebration today. Plus, if any of the other recipients today have called, text, emailed Carol more than me, then you guys should be really, really ashamed of yourself. Because I know I was a real pain in the butt. This whole experience has been really surreal to me. Being nominated, ultimately being selected for such a prestigious honor. I am very humbled. Then came the outpouring of congratulations from friends, family, teammates, athletes I've coached over the years. Have been really humbling. I am humbled to have such a big crew here with me today. To be honest, today wouldn't even be possible without all of you being part of my life. First, I want to thank my wife, Sally, who we've been married for 49 years. And our 5 children, Adam, David, Nicholas, Lindsay, and Matthew. And bringing their families here today also. My sister-in-law, Nancy. I have friends here today that I've known for over 60 years. Ex-teammates of mine from Amherst High School, Corning Community College, and the University of Buffalo, some of which are already in this valid Hall of Fame. My Hall of Fame coach, Ed Michael, who coached me at both Corning Community College and the University of Buffalo. I have athletes here that I've coached over the years from Williams-Louise High School, from JFK High School, and Lakeshore High School. Okay, in my introduction, some of you may have noticed that I added several aliases. I want to give you a little background on one of them. Joe Garino. So anyways, we're in the Wilkes tournament, and at the time, as Coach Michael always said, it was the Rose Bowl of wrestling. Huge. There was former college champions, Olympians in there. It was a great tournament. And so I hear all these people being called to the mat, and I went up to Tony and I said, Tony, I should be up. They haven't called my name. And then I hear over the speaker, okay, on mat 5, Joe Garino from the University of Buffalo. I go, Joe Garino? You have nobody named Joe Garino on that team. So Tony ran up and found, oh, Roy, that's you. So anyways, teammates being teammates, from that point on called me Joe Garino, Garino, and what Coach Michael liked the best, Baby Joe. In fact, I want to see Tony's contacts in his phone right now, and I bet you it says Garino under my phone. Anybody who ever seen me coach wrestling know that I wasn't the type of coach that sat quietly in his coaching chair, you know, let's go and stuff. Very loud, very animated. I'd be pacing back and forth. Yelling out encouragement, technical advice to my wrestlers on the team. From time to time, having a comment to the official what I thought about a call or not. But it wasn't just me talking about it, too. A few times I even found myself standing on top of the team bench, doing whatever, and, kids on TV, watch it, coach, you're gonna fall down, and, which made it even worse, every move they ever made, I also was doing it on the sideline. And I had them switching, sprawling, whatever it was, I had to be part of it. Now I realized that's not very dignified, but I'm sure it was kind of entertaining to the people in the crowd, and I know my teammate thought it was hilarious. In conclusion, I have led a very charmed life. A lot of it's been the byproduct of being involved in this great sport of wrestling. I've had the pleasure to coach many fine athletes, and even my 4 sons, and now one of my grandsons. And by the way, I have 3 waiting on the warm-up. I even met my amazing wife, Sally, because of wrestling, but that's a different story. I want to thank all of you for being here today. Congratulations to all the other Hall of Fame recipients, and I can't wait to next year's NCAA wrestling tournament so I can wear my new green Hall of Fame jacket proudly. Thank you.
Our next recipient is Matt O'Rourke, winner of the Stanbro Media Award. The board has always felt that the media play a special place in our sport, and we want to recognize those that contribute to it. Matt, please come forward.
All right, hi everyone. I'm Matt O'Rourke. I'm from Boonville. In 2009, graduated at Randolph High School. Just want to say thank you to Carl and Bob and the rest of the Hall of Fame board for choosing to recognize me with this award. Some really sharp and hardworking people have received this award over the last 7 years. I think it's been played. So I honored to be in the company, especially my friend Tim Herman, who I finally got to meet. He runs Arm Drag website, and we work a lot together, and finally got to meet him. So, keep it short. I just want to say thank you to my parents, Tom and Edie, for raising me in the sport. Some of you may recognize my dad here today from years of coaching at South Louis and Adirondack. My dad shared both his love with wrestling and history with our family. Led me to truly cherish the past and feel the need to share our proud and humble traditions and current events of local wrestling in my region today. I want to say thanks to my wife Mackenzie, who, while didn't come from a wrestling family, knows how important this is to me and walks the grinding path of wrestling through the wintertime with me now. I want to say thanks to my high school head coach Joe Galligan for his many years of mentorship, helping to cultivate my experience, Mike Millich, and all other coaches in my time at Adirondack Central. I'd like to thank the officials, especially Todd Fallon and CNYWOA and Tom Sinelli and Niagara Frontier wrestling officials for sharing many hours of wisdom and helping me gain a valuable education from the referee's perspective. I'd like to thank my high school history teachers, my college history professors, teaching me how to master my research, writing, and presentation skills that I try to apply to our wrestling today. And also I'd like to thank the others at WYathletics.com, Matt Todaro, and especially Frank Wolf for supporting my work, giving me full creative control of all the platforms and anything wrestling related that I want to do. We spend a lot of time following me around Western New York and around the state, giving me labor resources, people volunteering their time to do technical things, and cameras and all that other good stuff that make it possible to get the best experience and coverage to high school wrestlers. So, good following. Finally, I'd like to thank the Section 3 community as a whole for helping raise me, and the Section 6 community for making me feel at home in Buffalo, where I've been for 10 years now. There's so many people to thank. It's truly a special group of men, many of whom I now consider friends, especially Coach Wilcox at Faulkner, Coach Edwards at Pioneer, Coach Kennedy at St. Joe's High School, Coach Becker at Lancaster, Coach Hart at Star Point, Coach Lilly at Sweet Home, Coach Lachinsky at Newfane, and Coaches G and Cole and Egan at Niagara Falls High School. Also the Section 6 committee, for anybody on the committee and the league chairman, especially sectional chairman Michael Barbranes and Martinez, who I know the hell out of, send text messages at 11 o'clock at night asking random questions, so I appreciate that. Lastly, I was lucky enough to have been coached by 2 Section 3 Hall of Fame coaches, one current, one future inductee, and helped run into by another, all just at Adirondack High School. When I was a little guy, I roamed the halls of South Louis and went to big boy practice. I was right in the middle of some legendary dual meets and moments in the heyday of the Frontier League. Some legendary coaches and wrestlers, and I got to wrestle many more as a student athlete. I was taught to revere and honor the accomplishments of wrestling coaches, especially those of Coach Wayne Ferguson and Coach Neil Walpole, who I'm overjoyed to see today, and many, many other coaches, as well as the boys that truly applied themselves to wrestling, especially those who face difficulties outside of school. Those are my heroes. I think that goes right in line. I think Coach Popolizio and Coach Bourne said it the best as well when they talked about the young men, and also young ladies who grow up from children to adults, and we do need more of those people like that in this country. I agree with Coach Bourne. Lastly, as a lifelong student, speaking to teachers, I humbly remind you that you are also someone's mentor, someone that your former wrestlers admire. I'm no media professional, and I don't do this for a living. I just write about wrestling and put it on the internet. You coaches and others that have devoted your lives to the sport are the true heroes. So thank you for your service. Thank you.
Our next 2022 National Hall of Fame Upstate New York Chapter honoree is Randy Morrison. Randy will be presented by Brock Morrison. Brock, would you please come forward?
Good afternoon. I'm Brock Morrison, oldest son of Randy. It is my honor to introduce him to the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Randy started his wrestling career at Louisville Academy under the tutelage of fellow Hall of Fame member Neil Hobble. Randy was runner-up of the 1983 state tournament and was crowned New York State champion in 1984. Randy began coaching at Governor in 1989 and was promoted to head coach in 1991. National Wrestling Hall of Fame member, the late great Lacey Jones, had established a successful program at Governor and was helpful as Randy began running a program in his home. Having two great leaders with Lacey Jones and Neil Hall, Randy would establish a remarkable coaching career himself. While head coach at Governor, Randy helped 35 wrestlers reach the podium at the state tournament, had 5 individual champions, and led his squad to 3 team titles in 2003, 2004, and 2006. Following the 2010 season, Randy stepped down as head coach. He continued to be involved with the program, but turned more of his focus to the youth wrestling at Governor in Northern New York. He left the varsity program in great hands of Joel Bear and Sean Cummings, who were some of his first wrestlers when he began coaching at Governor. They added 16 wrestlers to the podium after taking over and crowned 4 more individual champions. One of those champions is here tonight, Carter Bear, who received another award. Today, Randy and other Governor Wrestling alumni have come together to work on building a wrestling facility where athletes can continue to wrestle and sharpen their skills throughout the season and throughout the year. Randy was not like most coaches who were an employee of the school district, so his work schedule was not always easy. Long days and long nights, balancing work, coaching, being a father and husband is something I admire and find extremely challenging, and would not have been able to do that without a mother who was able to balance those things while we were gone every weekend at tournaments left and right. And he was always at the smallest and biggest moments in our lives. Let us now welcome Randolph Morrison Jr. for induction into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, now and forever.
Thank you, Brock. Mic up a little bit. Keep it. He hit a lot of things right away. It was a pleasure to have him running around, coming down. I remember when I first started coaching, walking down the stairs. I'm getting ready to leave and headed to the Central Square Christmas tournament. Tried to tell him to go back upstairs, get to bed. Well, we got to change clothes. Jumps in the vehicle, hops on the bus with us. So that was his first experience of going to a tournament, and after that, everything kind of kept going, roller coasting. I'd like to thank the Upstate NY Chapter, Frank Millard, for nominating me for this great honor. For Carl, once again, I had met him long before the whole process of being an honoree at the New York State tournament. He had the display up on the mezzanine, chatted with him a little bit, kind of cut from that same cloth as the gentleman that was responsible for a lot of this. Brock touched on it. Coach Neil Hall, 4th grade, yeah, the 5th and 6th grade Pee-wee. Wasn't a small kid growing up, so maybe we'll have you come up to and wrestle with the 5th and 6th graders. So I'm like, sure. And before that had started, I was a manager, and I'm thinking, well, I'm a manager for the wrestling team. So me and the other kid go downtown, we get some candy, come back with a soda for practice. Well, the other 2 older managers, that's not what works. So from now on, we came with our shorts, t-shirts, pulling the mats down, washing them, and so we learned a lesson of the right way and the wrong way pretty quickly. I'd like to congratulate all the honorees that being recognized today. If it weren't for the opportunity that Governor Central allowed us to travel throughout the state to compete, if we would have stayed in the North Country or just ventured to Syracuse, I definitely wouldn't be standing here today. But fortunately, a lot of the people here, I was able to, compete against your teams or, have some type of association, and you know, you're not strangers by any means, so we were fortunate enough to travel. 10 years ago, he said Brock touched on, I was at this ceremony. There were Neil Abel, Wayne Ferguson, and Rick Armstrong, and there's other ones here, I'm sure, but those three stick out from that particular day. And at the time, I never thought I would be standing here giving a speech with a timer on, of course. He's threatened bodily harm if we don't hurry up. But I think I'll be all right for a little bit. And but I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my wife. I know Brock touched on working construction, not working in a school. Well, one day we were at the local sporting goods store in Grimino, just getting a regular pair of sneakers or something like that. And I overhear this gentleman say, I need to get a pair of wrestling shoes. Kind of turned my head, you know, being of the wrestling. And he commences to tell the court, yeah, I'm going to be the new junior high wrestling coach at the school. I'm like, good. I don't know anything about wrestling, the guy said. I'm like, really? So I shook my head, kind of shrugged my shoulders to Stu, and, you know, we talked about it a little bit after that. Well, long before Indeed came along, the local newspaper had help wanted at it, wanted a JV coach for Grimino. So I went over to the athletic director, Ron Woodruff, talked to him a little bit. He said, we already filled the position. He goes, well, you can help as a volunteer. So I'm like, all right, sounds good. I mean, this guy doing the junior high doesn't know anything, right? So I went. That particular season, I went a little bit. I think I was at the time still like 22 years old. You know, one whole semester at Delhi. Really didn't have the whole college background of the wrestling and stuff. So, but that guy didn't know anything about wrestling, so I thought it was pretty safe. Well, at the time, we would have practice, be 3 separate practices. You know, growing up at Lowell wrestling there, our JV and varsities would practice together. But at Grimino, we were junior high, then we'd have a JV practice and a varsity practice. Well, remember, I'm a volunteer. I'm there almost 4 or 5 hours a night, going from one group to the next to the next. Well, fortunately for the junior high team, Joel Bear, who had the wrestling background, his dad had been a former coach at Grimino, he kind of took care of the junior high team. You know, he was showing all the moves. I'm sure he'll remember, I think it was Rick Rude or something like that was the coach's name, but Coach Bear really cut his teeth as the coaching at that point. So we fast forward, did it for a couple months, then the next year I went back, they got a new head coach. I'm thinking, well, there's a lot of turnover here, so I went back to Mr. Woodruff. Sure, I'll introduce you to the head coach. So it was a gentleman who had wrestled at Sandy Creek, so I kind of knew who he was at the time. I heard the name through the years, and got worked well together. We put the JV and varsity together to practice, and Brad, you're looking at your watch, I'm like, stretching it out. That's all right. And anyways, got to that point, and the spent that year as a volunteer once again. The next year, got asked to do the JV, so I did a season of the JV. Well, again, wasn't a teacher, wasn't working in a school, so I worked construction. Well, if I move back to Lowell, I'm a little closer to where I have to work. The other gentleman that I work with just jump in the vehicle with them on a Monday morning instead of leaving my family on a Sunday night for those sacrifices. So we moved to Lowell. That fall, we get a phone call from Mr. Woodruff again. Hey, we need a varsity coach. I look at my wife, and we just moved to Lowell, so we talked about it. And obviously she loved Grimino. I've grown to love Grimino myself. My 3 children have grown up there, flourished. 2 of the 3 are still there. So that was the fall of 1991, and my first start at the varsity. And we moved back, again, if it wasn't for my wife supporting me at that point in time after moving for me there, and then we moved back, again, I wouldn't be standing here today. So thank you, Sue, for that. Thank you to Brock, Dylan, and Cassidy for tagging along, jumping in the vehicle, sneaking to tournaments. We've had Brock and Dylan have better wrestling matches for people to watch at the Anderson tournament in the past, so we always hear that brought up, so thank you for that. And running tournaments, just helping me out for that. Getting back to Coach Harbaugh, you know, the whole 4th grade, wrestled in 7th grade, I could count all the lights in all the gymnasiums in the Frontier League, except for one. I won one match, so I'm like, well, pretty tall, let's get basketball shot. So in 8th grade, we played basketball, won one game. But during the season of basketball, Coach Harbaugh had recruited me long before the fancy score class we have now, the individual score. Post riding time stuff, some of you guys remember the riding time in high school. Well, we had the little clock, so I would sit there, keep the match score for our dual meet. So he kept his hooks in me till 9th grade. He back, you know, Brock had talked about my accolades at the high school level from that. And those accolades wouldn't have took place without the beatings by John Table. So I appreciate that at the time. So I think it was in the newspaper article at one time. Neil had the blueprint, and John did all the extra work, chiseling, whatever it was. It wasn't really much of a rock, but we got it done. That's about all I have. Again, thank you again to the committee, everyone here. The wrestling community has been great to me, and as well as all the people that are here in my honor. Thank you.
Our next honoree, Reverend Arthur Jones.
First of all, congratulations to all the honorees for a job well done. We're grateful for your dedication to wrestling. The state chapters of the National Wrestling Hall of Fame have several award categories, one of which is the Outstanding American Award. The qualifications include being a former wrestler at some point, integrity, being highly successful in their profession, and being a person who has used the disciplines learned in wrestling to reach those levels. Pastor Arthur W. Jones Jr. definitely meets those qualifications. In the mid-1970s, Arthur transferred to Madison High in Rochester, where I was the coach. He had some wrestling background, having started under my mentor, Hall of Fame coach John Spencer. I was impressed with his lean frame, huge hands, and his obvious excitement about being part of our team. First, I had to convince his mother. Some parents were reluctant because they confused folk-style wrestling with the pro wrestling they saw on TV, but this was different. Arthur's father was a pastor, his mother was very active in the church, and she thought the time Arthur spent at wrestling practice would conflict with Bible study. I had to convince Mrs. Jones, and she's a wise woman, and fortunately she understood how wrestling would benefit her son. During his junior and senior years, Arthur competed in the 145, 155, and 167 pound classes, and usually cut it close at weigh-in, but he always came through. He never missed a practice. He worked hard, and during his senior year, he won 3 big tournaments, including Don DeVos's massive Genesee Valley tournament. He was always in great shape, ran cross-country to condition himself, and always tried to learn more. He attended Earl Fuller's camp at RIT, freestyle clinics held by Walt Tyke at Spencerport, and Frank Oliveri's Carter Street program. That makes a total of 5 Hall of Fame members who were part of his youth, so he definitely had some role models. He eagerly passed on what he learned to his teammates, and he still maintains contact with some of them today and provides guidance and support when they need it. And that's part of being an outstanding American. Strong family and religious influences deeply impacted his life, but what he learned from wrestling, the value of hard work, perseverance, dedication, discipline, and responsibility also helped him to become a successful parent, pastor, and community leader. He said many times there's no other sport in the world that requires such tremendous discipline, and we all know that's true. He grew up in Rochester inner city, and our high school was in one of the toughest neighborhoods. He was no saint, but he was able to mature. He was able to mature and escape those negative influences. Now, Arthur knew the benefits of wrestling. He pointed his sons in that direction and provided opportunities for them. When the family moved to Endicott, his sons got involved, and he initially coached them, and they got the attention of others who saw their potential. He wanted his sons to have the same type of coaching and role models he had, and fortunately they got involved with Jack and J.J. Stanbro, who took them to great heights. Two sons, Arthur and John, became New York State champions, and then achieved even greater success as professional athletes. Although his youngest son, Chandler, didn't stick with wrestling, I'm sure he was influenced by it, and it maybe helped him become the great football player that he is. As a proud father, he was present when his two sons, Arthur and Chandler, won Super Bowl rings, and John won 12 UFC championships. There's no doubt in my mind that Arthur's guidance and discipline, along with that of his late wife, Camille, who was very influential, played a big part in helping his hard-working sons achieve success. But there's more than being a good parent that makes him an outstanding American. He's been honored for his work in providing human service and advocacy for people in underserved communities. He has served on commissions, community agencies, and workshops. He founded the Mount Sinai Summer Camp, which provided activities for young people to connect with role models. He has been the overseer of the Mount Sinai Soup Kitchen and chairman of the Bourne County Martin Luther King Jr. Commission. And he's the founder of the community outreach called Men Under Construction, where men from all walks of life, of all ages, all races, gather for a retreat each summer for spiritual and character building, with the goal of making them better men and better fathers. Throughout his life, he's overcome a number of obstacles. The loss of his young daughter Carmen to brain cancer, almost losing his entire home to fire, heart surgery, loss of 3 brothers, loss of his wife Camille to diabetes, but he never allowed setbacks to deter him. I know his strong religious faith has been important throughout this, and God's played a major role, but I also think the lessons and experiences of wrestling help too. Like the top-seeded wrestler who loses a heartbreaker in the early round of a tournament and then grinds back to finish third, Arthur always came through and always finished strong in life experiences. Throughout the years, he's never forgotten me. He always makes a point of introducing me to everybody as his wrestling coach. He seems to be as proud of me as I am of him. Most of our interaction, whether in phone conversations, at banquets, traveling to football games, or UFC fights, has been on the serious side. But he has another side. His hobby is dog breeding, and people from various parts of the nation have traveled to get dogs from him. He's made a lot of families happy. And also, the man can sing and dance. I wish I had taken a video of his performance. We were on the bus going from the arena to the hotel after one of John's fights. It would have been a highlight reel. But my time's up. I have to honor the time commitment. And let us now welcome Arthur W. Jones Jr. for induction into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you. How about that? At least I have my Cowboys. I said, how about that for Coach?
when you say coach in the women's world, that means a person. These guys are laughing because they know. You been to the coach store, right? My son told me not to cry, but it's too late. Every wrestler in this room know what it's like to go out and sometimes get caught, get beat, after all the sacrifice, and then go somewhere with a towel and just cry, 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 cry. I've been there, done that. Nothing wrong with crying. The tears help cleanse the soul. So Arthur, yeah, I done cried. There's so many people in this room that I can thank. Time is not allowed. Excuse me. My dad, Reverend Arthur W. Jones Sr. He, 87 years old, he had Alzheimer's. And when we went to Strong Hospital to see him, they had him tied up in 4-point restraints. And I asked the nurse, I said, would you just release him? I said, he's not going to do anything. And big man, he weighed about 250 pounds, big hands, big feet. And it was about time for us to leave the hospital. And we had to put him back in the restraints. So John and Arthur, they grabbed him and put him in the bed. And John goes, wow, man, this man is strong. I said, so that's where all this comes from, huh? He said, he's great, we're great, but what happened to you? I said, well, I'm the link. I'm the man that made the men. I said, nothing like being at home in Kale Sanderson. Y'all know that name, right? Call you. Hello, Mr. Jones. This is Kale Sanderson at Penn State. He was at our state at that particular time. He says, I'm interested in John Russell for us. And I said, man, my goodness. Wow, just your heart just stopped. Like, see how quiet it is? Nothing like going to the Nationals in New York State. And I go see Dan Gable. He's had 2 knee operations, 2 knee replacements, 2 hip replacements. And he stands up and he shakes my hand. Don't even know me. I shake his hand, and for like 2 minutes, I couldn't even think. He is a legend. Nothing like Mitch Clark. Talking with him on a one-on-one. Nothing like Bobby Douglas said, man, ain't a dime in wrestling, ain't a dime in wrestling, ain't a dime in wrestling. You have to wrestle because pretty much the only door you're going to get is probably a scholarship, be an Olympic champion, make movies, act. But there's too much, but that's the sacrifice, the grind. Wrestling is the only sport that's really mentioned in biblical times. It takes a man to get on the mat, put on tights, walk out on a mat, and grab, and tussle, and push. I can hear my coach now telling me, Arthur, start warming up. I got butterflies in my stomach, I'm sweating, I'm pacing, I'm nervous, you know, and just scared. Go out on the mat. 6 minutes. I remember I was telling my wife one day, I said, I got 6 minutes. I got 6 minutes. I got 6 minutes. She said, 6 minutes, that's all you got? We'll get there when you get home. 6 minutes. 6 minutes can be an eternity. Basketball, you got first half, second half. Football, you got 4 quarters. Chandler's playing now with the Raiders. They're losing to the Tennessee Titans. Arthur, my first Super Bowl champ. He's a prime example of sitting in the house for 3 days, waiting on the phone call. I said, let's go fishing, man, let's go fishing. He said, no. He said, if I go fishing out here in the boonies, he says, and I don't have no reception, they won't call me. Arthur, this is John Harbaugh from the Baltimore Ravens. 5th round. He got on the team. See, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. He got on the team at the 5th round and worked his way to becoming a starter. There's nothing like seeing him being in Louisiana, all the graffiti, falling down on you, going out on the field, salute your kids. I'll tell you, I lived vicariously through my kids. I wanted to be a state champion so bad that I would have did anything to be a state champion. But it just didn't, it didn't happen for me. It didn't turn out. I made some bad choices. Like Coach said, I wasn't a saint. Bad boys, bad boys. What are you gonna do when they come for you? Being here in Syracuse, and I'm not ashamed to tell it, I did 2 months downtown. On the way to school, I was trespassing. But here in the night. Amen. You're here, man. You're here. It's not how you start. It's how you finish. I want to thank the Stan Bros. They're like a second family to me. They're the only people I trusted with my kids. On Sundays when I preach, they said, your boys going places. They're going places. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. They're going to do it. They convinced me that they were going to do it. And I would allow them to take my kids to tournaments all over New York State because they wanted them to be the best. Thank you for making them the best of the best. Billy, your dad, Jack, your brother, JJ, Mrs. Lambro, you all did a marvelous job. A good job. They took care of my kids. They got a room, and they got a joint room. They stayed next door. One night we stayed right next door to them in Ohio at LeBron James Hotel. When they ate steak, my boys ate steak. They treated them just like they were their kids. And they were there all the way until the end, from the bottom. They had the patience. I'm going to tell you, if you got some bad kids, don't give up on them. Sometimes those are diamonds in the rough. And I just thank you for the people in the room that had the patience. Coach that had the patience with me when he knew I wasn't doing the right thing. Arthur, get to class. You know, there's one thing about my coach. He wasn't scared of me. I came to his classroom one day, knocked on the door, had some shades on, and I had a hat on. I told him, come on, get you. You talking about Superman? It didn't even faze him. Back in the day, Madison was a real bad school. One of the centuries got shot in the school. They pulled it. One day I was walking, and I'm done. I'm closing because I had a speech right here, but I guess it's best to be extemporaneous. That's right. And I bumped into a kid, and he said, "You walk around here like you John Wayne," because my confidence was soaring. He said, "I'll meet you after school at 4 o'clock." Well, he didn't meet me after school at 4 o'clock. He met me in the cafeteria during second period lunch. They cut the lights out, and they pulled a machete out this long. When you see a machete, they had the rest of it, they ain't gonna do too much to help you. And so I ran. Busted up brings the best in you. It brings out the worst in you too. There's a lady in this room that I'd like to recognize. She was so saved, my God. Mama, please let me wrestle. No. Mama, please let me wrestle. No. Coach said, I said, Coach, you got to talk to my mother. He was the only man. He listen, let me tell you something now. She said, look. The doctor tried to convince her to not have all those babies. But she was so adamant. She had 12 kids. 4 boys and 8 girls. And what? But, yeah, 1 man. Somebody spoke to me. I just lost my still here. Both of them died with heart attacks. I've had open heart surgery. I'm still the oldest. I'm still here. God has a purpose. God has a plan for me. He's not through with me yet. He's not done. He's still working on me. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Mama, for taking me to waiting, praying, walking on the ice to take me. I almost said Pastor Frank. This man taught me how to fast and pray. Did y'all get that? I said he taught me how to fast and pray. What do you mean? Well, I started out at 119, went to 126. Then I would go to 45, beat my brother-in-law. He's here, he served in the armed forces. Where is he? Randy, my brother-in-law. He served in the armed forces in the Marines. And he's a miracle. So I went from 45 to 55, 67. I couldn't beat anybody. 6'1", and I couldn't beat nobody on the team but my brother-in-law. So Thanksgiving was yogurt, Jello, water. Y'all know about the laxatives, right? When I went on the mat, it was like there was nothing left. Coach would still say, start warming up. Coach, I'm still warming up. These good people in here, Mount Sinai's here, stand please so you can see me. My wife is here. My friends from under construction, the men, they're here. My brother-in-law is here. My church is here. Y'all gonna stand up right there? Go ahead, you don't know me. My brother-in-law, Bishop Melvin. I got to call his name. Steve Williams, Dan Oleski, Dan Walker, yes, and Slack, and his wife. Thank you so kindly. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for putting up with me. Where's Carl? Where's Carl?
Right here.
Carl's getting ready to join my church. He don't know it yet. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for another day of spoken. Thank you. God bless you. God bless you. We love you.
Our next inductee, the 2022 National Hall of Fame Upstate New York Chapter, is the winner of the Medal of Courage. Medal of Courage is awarded to Scott Key. He will be presented today by Rick Gummel. Rick, could you and Scott come up together?
Take down.
Good evening. This summer, ESPN celebrated 50 years history of the 1972 federal law, Title IX, with an excellent documentary series titled How 39 Words Changed America, which is why today, as the chairperson of New York USA Wrestling and a member of this great hall, we too can take great pride in celebrating Sophia Macaluso as the recipient of the National Trish Saunders Award and the New York State High School Association, the sponsor of women's wrestling, is emerging sport this season. Congratulations to that accomplishment. Thus, in 1975, 3 years after the Title IX Act, the United States federal government passed the Individuals with Disabilities Act, which allowed a single mother, Ms. Nance Bernsky, to enroll her son, who was born with arms and legs that were severely underdeveloped, into the Main Annual Middle School. Before this very child was ready to meet the challenges of being mainstreamed into public education, doctors had already projected onto Nancy that her son's disability would have severe impact on the quality of his life, especially beyond the age of 40. In the late 1970s, what doctors didn't have in their medical journals was Nancy's son's new middle school housed the district's only wrestling room. Thus, as he graduated from Main Annual Middle School to Main Annual High School, Nancy, a mother of a child who others labeled handicapped, became a mother of a student athlete whose teammates and coaches proudly called her wrestler. In 1980, 30 years before the world watched Anthony Robis win the 125-pound Division I NCAA wrestling title without a right leg, Nancy's son became a varsity wrestler for New York State Hall of Fame coaches Fred Marcello, John Capelli, and myself. In the next 4 years, he was not just a participant on the Main Annual Wrestling team, he had won 85 varsity matches during his high school career. He was a 3-time stacked Section 4 Class A place winner back when schools like Ithaca, Union Endicott, Johnson City, Main Annual were all stacked Section 4 and New York State powerhouses. As a Greco-Roman wrestler, he also qualified and wrestled for both Central Region's Empire State Games team and the New York State USA Wrestling Junior National Team in the event that we call simply Fargo. During the late 1980s, ESPN had not matured as a sports channel to feature shows and documentaries like today's E60 or 30 for 30. Back then, at 8 p.m., an hour before ABC's Monday Night Football, there was a TV show called That's Incredible. Today, you can Google the episode that features Nancy's son's wrestling was far more than a circus act. Even now, in 2022, it should be noted that if a person with a disability wanted to wrestle today in the Paralympics, he or she could not, because the sport of wrestling is still not offered, but judo is. Today, at age 57, this man's life is too full to need to return to the mat. He is currently living a fully self-sufficient, independent life as a successful cattle farmer in northern Pennsylvania. His family is blessed with 2 sons. Those 2 sons have blessed his family with 3 grandchildren. And as a grandfather, he's also talented enough to entertain Nancy's great-grandchildren by playing music on his guitar. This evening, I'm sad to say, Nancy passed away a few months ago. Therefore, it's still an honor to have her son's lifelong friendship and trust to introduce to this great group of people Mr. Scott Key as the 2022 recipient of the Upstate New York Chapter National Hall of Fame's well-deserving Medal of Courage. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Scott Key.
You know, I understand why when people look at me, they think I'm courageous. But the truth is, being born with a disability, it's all I ever knew growing up. I learned to do what I do the same way you learn to do what you do. And that's just through repetition, through practice, through learning how. My mother was a school teacher, and she had this way of getting me things for toys to play with that were just little things that needed a lot of ambidextrous with movement, and she would never help me. That's your toy, you go play with it. And so I learned how to do little things like that. But I was always having fun, and when I got to the wrestling room, that was nothing but fun for me. And the thing that I found there was what I'm sure everybody who has ever been in a wrestling room found, is an amazing group of people to call yourself brothers. To have the coaches that I had, Fred Marcello, John Kapalik, and Rick Gumbel, who are already in the Hall of Fame. To not even think twice about saying, yeah, I'm on the team. To have the group of men that I wrestled with back then, many of them are over here at the table now, who never once treated me as if I was any different than anybody else. As a matter of fact, Trevor Ernie would often walk by me and say, "Get off your ass, Scott, you're never going to win a match like that." You know, or the gentleman that I wrestled with from junior high on up, who wasn't here, he was my practice partner. We would have to watch what the coach was doing and for me, modify some of the moves. And if I got it, I still hear his voice to this day, "That was good, get off me." But the one thing wrestling didn't prepare me for was going into life and having other people who didn't look at me the way they did. And what I ended up finding out was that often in life, what held me back more than my disability was other people's perceptions of my disability. So I ended up working for a little while as a civil rights advocate, and felt that in that time period I was able to kind of pay back what was given to me in life. And I was able to carry the lessons that I learned in the wrestling room on through life, to work hard, to persevere, to win with grace, and to use every time you lose as an opportunity to reflect and see where you can improve yourself. But when I think of what courage is, I have to think of my mother. In 1964, my mother became a single parent at a time where being a single mother was not a good thing. I was actually up for adoption up until the minute I was born. And the minute I was born, and my mom saw I had a disability, she said, "There's just no way that I'm going to let this child end up in an institution for the rest of his life." So she swore to herself then that she was going to raise me to live as independent a life as possible, to be as self-sufficient as possible. And it often meant that I had a 4th grade school teacher up my backside most of my life. But she went through everything she needed to get me on. In the first 2 years of my life, they amputated what feet I had, and my feet were no more feet than my hand, but they did that so that I could fit into prosthetics. I spent 6 months in my 2nd year and 3rd year of age in a hospital in New York City. And the reason for that was to learn how to use legs, to tie shoes, to, just that kind of thing. My mother at that time period was getting her education, working full-time as a secretary at the Bourne County Health Department, and then on Fridays driving to New York City and sleeping in the chair next to my bed. After that, she was willing to sign permission slips for me to wrestle. At the age of 19, Rick Gumbel became my coach, and then a couple years later, came to my mom and me and said, "Hey, can I take him out to some wrestling tournaments this summer?" And thanks to Rick, I was able to participate in the Empire State Games, to be part of the junior national wrestling team for New York. Later in life, I decided, and this is another thing, is that I've always, because I was told at 19 I wasn't gonna have a life after 40, I just kept dumping the last thing and moving on to the next thing. I became a musician. I met a man who looked like he was playing guitar with 2 fingers. And I walked up to him and I said, I have 2 fingers. Could you teach me to play? And he looked at me and says, you are crazy, aren't you? And I said, well, could be. And he spent the last 2 years of his life teaching me to play guitar. That was the start of a 20-year career learning to play music, or playing music, learning to play guitar, getting an endorsement deal with Martin Guitars, and just really having a good time. Along this way, I became a father. I raised my 2 sons who are here today, pretty much on my own. But again, there are 2 more of the people in this world that when everybody else was looking at me saying, wow, it's amazing, and they're like, yeah. You know, I'm just dad. And I think their biggest complaint about me is they get to hear the same stupid joke I tell everybody because they follow me around and it's brand new for everybody else. But anyways, I appreciate it being here today. I appreciate the honor of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. It is absolutely nothing I ever anticipated happening in my lifetime. Again, I'd like to thank the coaches from Maynardville that I had in the 80s, and the teammates. These are a group of people that have nobody else I've met in life has come close to. As far as being part of who I am, as far as having the effect on my life and the direction that I've been able to take, as far as being a fighter, and learning how to win with grace and lose with grace. And anyways, thank you so much for having me here tonight. I appreciate it.
Our next honoree is Richard Dick Ballard, which is the Swimlar Volunteer Award. Richard, please come forward.
Hey, I'm Bill McNeil, head coach at Woody Point Wrestling, Woody Point High School. Since the early 1980s, I've been fortunate enough to take advantage of a guy who went off to Korea to represent our country and came home injured. In other situations, he would have been my assistant coach of record, but because of his injury and the associated problems that brought to the school, he became a volunteer assistant. The thing about having an assistant coach was once spoken to by was once spoken to, and it's been said that when you pick an assistant coach, you should be looking for someone who compliments you, or that you can work with because you see that you have the same values. Many, many times in the last 30 years, we've been on bus trips together, and we entertain the kids tremendously because we are so political opposites. Yet at the end of the day, we get off the bus, and it's like the kids are amazed, but we're like talking like we did before we got on the bus, no problems, move on. Because we've always seen the goal, because we've always been able to see what we needed to do to succeed, we've had tremendous success. And I credit a lot of it to his ability to calm me down and to make sure that we get things done that need to be done. I recognized a long time ago when we used to go up to a clinic at Pete Hossratz in Sherman, one of the board members here, or one of the members, and also Stan Olinsky and Tom Robertson, some great coaches from Section 4, who talked about how to become great at coaching this sport of wrestling. Not many times did they talk about the money it would cost to do summer tournaments, to help equip kids. I made up my mind that we were never going to be in a situation where we had to have people say, geez, if I'd just gone to one of those powerhouses like Ithaca or Maine Enblow or Johnson City, we'd have had a much easier go of it because it would have been much cheaper. So we had to have money. That's where Dick came in. He is the barbecue king. I'm his loyal assistant. We've done barbecues forever to make things work not only for wrestling in Whitney Point, but for the youth club kids in all sports. And I would have to say that Dick was instrumental in putting together the mechanism of Whitney Point Youth Club for football, for soccer, for all the sports. And today we had people in the community come to us and say, hey, what can you guys do to help us make some money because we need to finance something. And inevitably, it ends up at the dinner table. And we're talking about it and seeing what we can do to help people. In Section 4, we took lessons from Stan Olinsky, who was the ultimate tutor in how to raise money. We spent money as a section to feed every place winner, first in one tournament, and then in two, once we went to a qualifier, at a restaurant, and make a show of it. And Dick became instrumental in following through after Stan retired to be the 100-pound gorilla in the corner who was going to make coaches do what we needed to do to raise the money to get the job done. In more recent times, it's been golf. And he runs the Section 4 Coast Association golf tournament. And it goes on. But it didn't just stop with us at Whitney Point. It went international because along the way we figured out, you know, if we could bring in some international teams, we could give our kids a little bit more of an edge. So we brought in the Turks. We brought in the Germans twice. Dick took a team to Sweden. Let me tell you, that took a lot. We had to go to the fair to figure out how we were going to raise the money for that one. But we never had it said that you had to have your own money and you couldn't afford to go. We always made sure, and that's what Dick came. And I'm not the only guy that recognized that, because Rob Cole over at Cornell, when he took over, decided to take that tournament, that program in a different direction and start a foundation. And one of the people that he gathered in to help him do that was this man, Dick Ballard. And not only did it help Cornell, and it still is helping Cornell, but it also helped the wrestling community around Ithaca and the state, and indeed the nation, because we got access to people through there, like Kyle Dake. Kyle Dake started coming to our room to have meet and greets. There's the ultimate source. Sorry. At any rate, Dick has been tremendous. He's been very, very good at organizing, and he has also done a lot to he's also done a lot to make sure that wrestlers in Section 4 get much more than a fair shake.
First of all, I want to thank the committee, Carl Koenig, for this honor. I greatly appreciate it. First of all, I want to thank my wife of 43 years and my family of 5 kids and 1 son and 4 daughters for their help, because I couldn't have done it without them. They've always been at all the wrestling tournaments helping out and the barbecues and other things, not between Woody Plank, but also Cornell, selling clothing with Kathy Pace. So I'm very honored for this award, and thank you very much.
Our next honoree of the 2022 National Hall of Fame Upstate New York Chapter is John Grello. John will be presented by Ashley John and Adam Grello. Ashley and Adam.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm honored to be able to introduce my father for this prestigious award. I'm also honored to be in the presence of such great company with the other Hall of Fame inductees and distinguished guests in attendance. Congratulations to all the honorees today. I'm up here with my brother Adam, and usually people draw straws as they play rock, paper, scissors to determine who goes first today. Of course, we had a wrestle off, and well, you see who won. So John Grello coached varsity wrestling for 44 years at 2 different schools. He began his career in Holly from 1975 to 1977. He coached Pavilion from 77 to 89 and came back to Holly, where he spent his final 30 years from 89 to 2019. His impact to the programs were noticed right away. As a young coach at 22 years old, he led the 1975 Holly team to a record of 9-6, which was an improvement from a 2 wins, 10 losses the previous year. He went to Pavilion and built a winning program there, and right after winning a sectional title, he returned to Holly and led that team to a 10-3 record, which was an improvement from 1-12 and 3-11 the 2 years prior. Under his leadership, Holly wrestlers became winners. They began to dominate in this section and started a run of sectional titles, winning 11 over the span of 14 years, including 8 in a row. Individual successes has also come from his athletes. Like many coaches here, he had coached several sectional champions, New York State representatives, New York State place finishers, and champions. One special moment happened when our brother Andrew, who couldn't be here with us today, he won a state title. Adam and I were lucky enough to be in the corner alongside our father for that match. They actually allowed me to be a third person in that corner as long as I stayed on the med kit, which was next to impossible. Another individual from Holly is one of New York State's most decorated wrestlers. This wrestler was a 6-time New York State place finisher, a 5-time finalist, and a 4-time champion. I can go on listing more accomplishments, but the accomplishments are what brought us here today, and I think that speaks for itself. And so I'm going to turn over to Adam, and he's going to talk about why John Grello is so special.
Dad has a unique ability to lead. He has the ability to make connections. He has the ability to motivate. The teams he coached didn't always have great wrestling talent, but his wrestlers had heart, they had guts, they had hustle, and they had mental toughness. These are the characteristics that were preached in the wrestling room every day. What you would also hear is this: gargle with Listerine before and after practice. Shower after practice. Do your homework. Be good in school. Love your parents. It was really like he had 30 other children every single year. All he ever wanted was for each of his wrestlers to be the best they could be. Dad's impact on student athletes not only translated into success on the mat, or field, or court, but success in life. As children, my brothers and I grew up seeing the work Dad would put in. Hours away from home, hours on the phone, hours talking to parents, and teachers. He would watch videos, attend clinics, traveled all over the country. Wrestling was our life. Our family vacations were often combined with wrestling trips. While at Empire State Games in Long Island, we almost missed curfew at the dorms. Literally the night before we had to wrestle, because we went to a Yankee game. Besides wrestling, he coached all of our youth sports teams. Those of you who remember his passion and intensity as a wrestling coach, you should have seen him coach T-ball. We had wrestling mats in the barn, and yes, we were required to use them. Weights too. But we also had a basketball hoop, a ping pong table, a swimming pool, and everything else. It was basically another gymnasium. Many wrestlers from other schools, some an hour away or more, would come to our house in Albion just to get a workout in over the summer. Some would even come out 3 days a week for off-season practices and follow him to tournaments every weekend. Dad was very involved with USA Wrestling and coached on the staff for many years at Empire State Games and Cadet and Junior Nationals in Fargo. Through this, he was always networking, learning, and building relationships. Dad, there's no doubt you are a great coach, educator, director, and mentor. But if you were the best at anything, with all you achieved, you're the best at being a father. Let us now welcome John Grello for an induction to the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. Now and forever, John J. Grello.
Where's Arthur? Talk about crying, huh? I may need someone to come over here and finish the speech. A lot of great speakers here today. And it's a hard act to follow, some of you, or all of you. Congratulations to all receiving honors and awards tonight. It is truly amazing and humbling to be inducted into the Hall of Fame Lifetime Service Award and being here with such an elite group of people. Many great people here that I looked at and followed and attended the clinics. Their names have been mentioned in here as well. Now starts my journey. I was injured going into the 119-pound finals of the sectional championships my senior year in high school. Back then, you had to win in the finals in order to continue your dream and become a state champion. I lost that match and did not fulfill my goal. I still break out in a sweat to this day thinking about that last match. I was ahead, I threw legs, and I ended up getting pinned. Then I went on to college where they wanted me to compete at 125 pounds. I did not want to cut weight anymore, like a lot of you guys did after you got done wrestling. So I stayed up at 152 pounds, where I was competing against those cutting from 165. It was a difficult challenge, and once again, I did not achieve what I wanted. Then I was hired to be a varsity wrestling coach at a very young age at Holly Central School in 1975. This is where I did not allow my past setbacks to stop me. The passion, fire, and excitement started instantly during my first coaching and teaching position. It did not stop until I coached my very last student athlete 44 years later. All this would not have been possible if it weren't for all the great people who I surrounded myself with, who bought into my system. It is important that I recognize them also. Here tonight is my wife Diana, my two sons. My third son had twins, and he was not allowed to leave the house at this point. Just had them. my sister, family, and friends. Thank you for supporting me over the years. They put up with the demanding schedule, many moves, and patience throughout all of it. I love you for that. Thank you. All three of my sons were standout athletes at Holly Central School, where I coached when I coached them. They went on to become excellent and successful wrestlers in the USA Wrestling Federation, winning several titles in freestyle and Greco-Roman, and all went on to Fargo. The administration and staff at the schools where I taught and coached allowed me their support. The parents, guardians, and families of all the great student athletes who put their trust in me, they believed in me. To the many coaches who assisted me and witnessed my intensity at each practice and at the competition. The student athletes whom I coached who believed in me and worked hard each day to achieve their goals and dreams. Coaching for me was 365 days, a year, in order for me to get my team to perform better. I never took my career for granted and always looked to improve as a coach and never stopped learning. My ears and eyes were always open and I asked plenty of questions. As a matter of fact, I was at Fargo and one of the wrestlers that just won a national title, junior title, I said to my son, I said, I'm going to go down there and I'm going to ask him how he did that move. And I made myself down, way down there, and he's full of sweat, and there I was in the corner, and he was showing me what he did. So I never wanted to stop learning, and I had the guts to go and ask people. I wasn't better than anybody. I never thought I was. I attended coaches, clinics, camps, seminars, watched technique videos, read books, which allowed me to better myself as a coach. I was never one to have been a master of techniques, but I prided myself in well thought out practices, great conditioned athletes, being a motivator, and drilling and pounding the basics. I had the energy and drive and was tireless when it came to proper preparation. Never being satisfied and content, and always looking for ways to motivate, inspire, encourage my student athletes to better themselves. Developing relationships with my student athletes, treating everyone equal with no favorites, and developing character brought a family atmosphere, which was very important in building a championship program. Building a team did not stop after the state tournament. This is where our club hosted off-season dual meets, clinics, tournaments, and traveled all over Eastern United States and then some for youth on up. Several standout wrestlers from other districts used to come and belong to our Gold Force Wrestling Club. The philosophy was steel sharpens steel when it came to hard drilling and intense live wrestling. It was a wonderful experience to have coached my three loving sons. Being a head coach and father saw many bittersweet and roller coaster moments in my life. However, when it was all said and done, it made for our family to be even tighter. All three, led by example, were great role models and went on to achieve even greater success. Success does not come easy. Success is difficult and very hard to stay on top. You need to have the drive and commitment each year and not be content with the success you already accomplished. I tried to demonstrate to my student athletes a solid work ethic, mental toughness to fight through the hard times, and the dedication needed to succeed. One of the greatest feelings I had as an educator and coach was to see the progress in the students and athletes and to see how much I made a positive difference in their lives. Seeing that made all of 44 years in my profession a real achievement. Tom Hanks, in the movie A League of Their Own, he quoted, "It's supposed to be hard. The hard is what makes it great. If it wasn't hard, anyone can do it." I'm also a grandfather, a papa to 10 grandchildren. And like I said, the ones were just born recently. In conclusion, I would like to thank this great group of people who put on this ceremony, the Hall of Fame committee, and thank you so much for this program, and thank you all. Thank you and God bless.
Our next next two honorees, Dana Charpentier, presented by Frank Miller. Frank, please come forward.
First of all, I need to set the record straight, and I'll refer to this later. Dana Charpentier is officially, from this point on, known as Dana Charpentier. So, just sitting here listening, today's program reaffirms to me what a great sport we have. The history lesson that I heard today, and in particular I want to refer to Section 5. I'm one of those guys who grew up wrestling in Section 5 for Hall of Fame coach Abe Myers at Miners Academy. So I have a soft spot in my heart for those Section 5 guys. Now, from this point on, the hardest part for me today, being honored to present for Dana, was little did I know that the Buffalo Bills would be playing the Dolphins at the same time today. And unfortunately, I have to report the Miami Dolphins, without Tua, edged the Bills today 21-19. That sucks. So I heard the question, how did you ever come up to be friends with Dana Charpentier? And that's a question I think just time has come about. And my moment is to reflect on Dana as the man I've known for over 30 years. Dana is a native of Whitehall, and for some reason, the people in Whitehall, he's known as Dana Carpenter. So again, we've set the record straight. Hudson Falls and South Glens Falls also have a big claim for Dana as their #1 coach and their #1 official in Section 2. And as a working official, when Dana worked, he was always in demand to work a match or a tournament. And back then, there was no such thing as an assigner, so coaches would go and get the guys, and of course Dana was always closed out first. Dana was an educator in our region for over 30 years. Now, like me, he taught first grade at one time. He taught second grade, and finally he got up to 6th grade and realized that was his specialty. And the reason I mention that, all his efforts reflect in his ability to mentor and to lead new and inexperienced officials in interpretation meetings and on the mat. And I'm one of those fortunate enough to have, somehow Dana took me under his wing as a mentor because I was a wrestling coach and I made the transition to becoming a wrestling official. Well, Dana set me up for success. And that's the kind of guy he is. So for those of you who are officials, and I guess those of you who have been coaches, imagine working a tough semifinal bout and dealing with 2 crazy coaches. The good news is it wasn't Rob Weeks. It wasn't Jack LeBombard. And I guess Randy Morrison, you might have fit into that category too, but you weren't there. So, with that in mind, I can see one of the wrestlers are playing the edge, and I finally had enough signal the stall call. So Dana's reaction, here's my mat judge. He gives me the thumbs up, and it's perfect. And that thumbs up reaffirmed that my call was correct. And that was my breakthrough moment as an official. The kind of support and direction, that's the best example I can give of how much influence Dana has had on every official in Section 2 over the last 30, 40, I don't even know years anymore. Ask any working official in Section 2, and the answer will always be the same. Dana helped me become a better official. Hey, the good news is my print is big and my speech is short. Even as Dana stepped back from being a full-time working official, he'd somehow take time, get in his car, and sometimes drag me along with him as well, and we'd attend dual meets, the big class tournaments, the sectionals, and he was always there as a resource for any official who needed support or clarification on a rule or interpretation. Well, Section 2 and the CDWOA have been beneficiaries from Dana's leadership and unlimited energy and efforts for over 30 years. So I'll close with congratulations, Dana, on this well-deserved honor, your membership into the New York State Wrestling Hall of Fame. And let us now welcome Dana Charpentier for induction into the National Wrestling Hall of Fame, now and forever. Dana Charpentier.
They call a hot mic, right? Now everybody else is a coach out there, but no, I'm on that end of the game. So, even though I did coach varsity, JV, and modified for quite a long time, I think my real whole thing was refereeing. It's just a great honor to be on the mat with so many great kids many times. I would like to thank Frank for the kind words and friendship throughout the years, as well as my golf partner. I'll try to do better on next outing. We didn't lose that. I know Jack LeBombard is always taking our money all the time. I'm honored to be selected for the Wrestling Hall of Fame and to be surrounded by my friends, family, as well as fellow honorees out here. Some great people. It's like amazing. It is, as Frank said, it's like listening to history taking place before you. It's amazing. I guess this is as good as it gets in the sport of wrestling. At least I feel that way. Coaching, wrestling, and officiating definitely is time consuming, and it takes you away from your family. As you coaches know, and fellow officials know, that you do put in a lot of time, a lot of driving, through snowstorms. I could tell you tons of stories about that, but I won't. 2-day tournaments, they just last forever. And most people here would understand that the wrestling tournaments are long. We're getting better at it. From what I can see, they're trying like heck to consolidate tournaments into maybe a 1-day tournament and so on. But it is what it is. I mean, let's see, I've had both hips replaced, I've had a shoulder replaced, and getting it on and up and down and so on a wrestling mat takes its toll on the body after a period of time. Now, would I trade that all in? No. I'd still go ahead and do it all over again. I did referee for a while on both hips that were replaced, but after a while it just didn't make sense, because when you're trying to catch a heavyweight going out of bounds, probably not a good idea when you don't have something underneath you. So I kind of gave that up. I kind of cut my eye teeth on officiating by following one gentleman by the name of John Mulligan, Saratoga. I would follow him to the end of the earth, God rest his soul, and anytime he was done officiating, I would go right up to him and say, John, why did you call this out? I have notes with you. And he would take the time to explain everything to me after the match, and it was like, perfect. So wherever he went, I went. And that's how I got better at the sport. But also, as you get going and you get better at it, or you think you're better at it, or at least you feel like you are, I guess the crowning point, one of the crowning points that made me a better official, or at least gave me more confidence, was one day in Saratoga at the varsity match, coached by the name of Blaze Giuliano. Big guy, about 6'4", 225. He's up out of his chair, having at it, and so on and so forth. And, I'm like, young official, and I'm like, okay, how am I gonna do this? He's an imposing coach, great teams, whole 9 yards, and next thing I know, he gets out of his chair and he starts coming towards the mat and complaining about a call, and I had enough, I guess, so I turned around and looked at him, because the kids went out of bounds, and I pointed to the chair and nodded. Well, he looked at me and like, no, I don't think so. And I said, sit down. Now, all the people in the stands were like, oh. And he sat down. Holy cow. I got this now I know what I'm doing, man. So I was good after that. That was cool. So that kind of gave me, between learning the ropes and coming up through, I will give you a couple of crazy things, because if you're an official, you always will run across crazy things on the mats. And one of the people who was, I guess, part of this was my son. At the time, I think he was about 9 years old. We were in Bourne Hills doing a heck of a match. There was a tournament going on, so I'm the head official, and off we go. Mats are crazy, people are screaming all over, and I had a pretty good match going on, and they were close to out of bounds, but we weren't out yet, and I heard this blood-curdling scream. Everybody did. In the gym, it was crazy. Almost, you could hear a pin drop almost. My kids were close to out of bounds, so I blew them out of bounds, because I knew that scream. It was my son, who was caught in the bleachers. Now, the bleachers at Burnt Hills, they're about 30 feet up. They're huge. I guess he's been climbing up there, and you know how those old wooden bleachers would close up? Well, he had his feet going, he was doing good, he was almost to the top. Well, I guess what happened was lost his footing, and now he's hanging by his fingers that are pinched in between the bleachers, screaming his head off, like, now I've got to run over there and get him. So, yeah, that was interesting. A lot of ice, hot dog, and soda, and so on. He's a little bit bigger now than he was before, but that's okay. Another time I was in the gym, Jack Bombard's team was going at it in Queensbury. Pretty good crowd, and it was a heck of a match. And I was halfway through the match, and I kind of squatted down a little bit to get ready to make my calls, to start them. They're in the neutral, or the down position. And I could feel something, and all of a sudden, well, my pants split right up to the back. And now the crowd's going, oh, one of those. I'm like, oh, great. So luckily, one of Jack's kids, one of the team, went in the locker room, got a pair of Queensbury shorts that I put on and finished the match in the kids' shorts. Like, oh, okay. So that reminded me, from now on, always have an extra pair of pants when you go officiate. So you learn things as you go along. Another time I was in Whitehall Granville, Section 2, when they had some tremendous teams, the Sable Boys and the Dykels and all those guys. And it was standing room only. The place was crazy. And they had cops there because Granville and Whitehall, they're bitter rivals. And so they're going along, and the crowd was getting a little edgy. And halfway through the match, one of the kids got hurt. One of the Whitehall kids got hurt because they were at Granville. It was at the Granville school. And then the crowd had been kind of, like I said, getting a little unruly. And so I blew the whistle, got them taken care of. But some of the crowd from the opposing school were giving the kid the business, like, oh, you're not hurt, you're faking it. And like, oh, that drove me crazy. And I'm like, all right, I've had enough of this. So I went over to the head table, grabbed the microphone, and lit into the crowd. I told them it wasn't WWE, this is a high school wrestling, and I laid into them for about a good 3 or 4 minutes, and you could have heard a pin drop. But I did tell them, if I heard any more, I'll just clear the whole gym. The kids will be the only ones here, everybody's gone. So sometimes you got to do what you got to do to keep the crowd under control. One other quick thought here was that, well, I have two actually. I'll do as quick as I can. I was supposed to referee a college match. Now, I've never done college before, just done, high school and so on and so forth. Well, Coach DeMeo at Albany said, hey, I like what you're doing, we need an official. We're wrestling Boston University, and the coach for Boston University, I believe, was Carl Adams at the time. So you've got Joe DeMeo and you got Carl Adams, and I'm like, Carl Adams, man, this guy's like the best, one of the best, crazy. So I got there and Joe DeMeo said, here's the rule book. I had 45 minutes to read the rule book as fast as I could and figure out how it all worked out. It's like, oh my God. So luckily, didn't have a lot of problems. It was a fairly straightforward match. So they both, Carl Adams comes over and says, you did a nice job. And I'm thinking, all right, this is good stuff. And the last thing I would discuss is probably the highlight of my officiating career, one of the highlights, if not one of the best. It was the match I did in 1993 when the War Memorial was not available. They were refurbishing it, and so we went to the On Center and wrestled there. It was almost like a Pee-wee tournament because people were right on the mat almost. It was crazy. There wasn't a lot of room. And the two wrestlers that were going at it was supposed to be the match of the year. Mitch Clark and Marcel Kitchendanner. Sorrell, sorry. Why do I always do that? But it was the match. It was crazy. And I watched it on YouTube a couple of days ago. It's like, whoa, okay, I did a pretty good job, I think. But it was, thank you. That was a good match. That was crazy good. And when I got done with that, and went to overtime, and Kitchendanner took him down. But it was just a crazy. And actually, I hit Kitchendanner for stalling also, believe it or not, because he was backing up. So, no, I'm going to hit you. In today's, if we had today's rules today, back then, with the blood time and all that other stuff, could have been a different match. I don't know. But it was very good. And finally, close out, I'd like to thank my pretty girl, my wife, Cynthia, of 34 years. Kind of for putting up for all the absences for dinner, parties, and things of that nature, because you know as a coach and an official, you're away from home a lot. Simple as that. And I think at times my two boys, Derek and Aaron, may have suffered a little bit because where's Dad? He's out officiating again. He'll be back later. So who knows? He's at a tournament. So time lost with them, I could never get back, obviously. Nor can you coaches get those times back either. But it is what it is. And I want to shout out to my family from Carolinas and Georgia, and my fellow officials from CDWA up in the Great Capital District, Section 2, and all in all, my extended family, I am deeply humbled to be in this room with these people. Thank you very much.
Before I turn the microphone over to Dr. Eric to close, I have a couple of reminders and a request. The first reminders are those honorees today. There are two photos afterwards, one with all of you with the plaques, and another one, all of you with their green jackets. So we need a photo of plaques and green jackets, and the request, your badges. All of you that are wearing the badges, there's a box out front, please return those to the back. Dr. Eric.
If you don't return it, Carl will come to your house and get it. Just letting you know. Just want to thank everybody for being here. I mean, it really is being amongst legends. Had a chance in your program on the second and third page to look at the in memoriam, and some of those folks that really critical to made wrestling what it is in New York State today, that are no longer with us. So if you get a chance, kind of look there. I mean, I'm looking at Jim McClough. He was a special part of my life, you know, at Waverly, and give those guys that. But I want to thank everybody for making the 2022 induction ceremony an amazing ceremony. If we give everybody, all of our inductees, one more round of applause. And I'm going to wrap it up because I'm on the clock. So I want to wish everybody a safe trip home and be well. We'll see you next year.
Good night, safe travels. Photos are forward. Come to the podium. Come to the podium for your photos. Blacks first, green jackets second. Thank you, Dr. Harris. Goodbye.